Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto was one of the most influential and controversial figures of the Imperial Japanese Navy and of the entire Pacific theater during the Second World War. A man whose life combined elements of vision, discipline, and tragedy. He was born in 1884 in Nagaoka, Niigata Prefecture, into a samurai family of modest means, and his original surname was Takano before being adopted into the Yamamoto family. He graduated from the Japanese Naval Academy in 1904 and soon took part in the Russo-Japanese War, fighting at the famous Battle of Tsushima in 1905, where he was badly wounded, losing 2 fingers and suffering injuries that left him with lifelong scars. Despite these setbacks, his determination and brilliance helped him rise through the ranks. His intellectual curiosity and linguistic talent led him abroad, and he studied at Harvard University between 1919 and 1921, gaining a deep understanding of American culture, industry, and society. Later, as a naval attaché in Washington, he closely observed U.S. military and industrial capabilities, which convinced him that Japan would struggle to sustain a long war against such a powerful nation. He even visited American factories and oil fields, recognizing that industrial capacity and natural resources would be decisive in modern warfare. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, Yamamoto was deeply involved in naval planning and modernization. He was an early advocate of naval aviation, believing that aircraft carriers and airplanes would play a decisive role in future wars, and he often clashed with traditionalist officers who favored battleships. He also opposed Japan's alliance with Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, as well as the escalation of tensions with the United States. But once war became inevitable, he accepted his duty as a military leader. In 1939, he was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Fleet, and from that moment, he became the chief architect of Japan's naval strategy. His most famous and daring plan was the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, designed to deliver a crippling blow to the U.S. Pacific Fleet and to give Japan the freedom to conquer territories in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Yamamoto knew that this attack would awaken American public opinion and provoke a long and bitter war, but he hoped that initial victories might force the U.S. into a compromise peace. The attack was tactically successful, sinking or damaging 8 American battleships and destroying many aircraft, yet it failed to achieve its main objectives, as the vital aircraft carriers were not in port and repair facilities and oil depots were left intact. More importantly, Pearl Harbor unified American resolve and marked the beginning of total war in the Pacific, a reality that Yamamoto had predicted but could not prevent. During the months following Pearl Harbor, Yamamoto's fleet won a series of swift victories, expanding Japanese control across vast areas of the Pacific. However, he was also the mastermind behind the Battle of Midway in June 1942, a bold operation meant to lure U.S. carriers into a trap. Thanks to American codebreakers, the Japanese plan was anticipated, and the battle turned into a disastrous defeat for Japan, with the loss of 4 carriers and many of its most experienced pilots. Midway proved to be the turning point of the Pacific War, severely weakening Japan's offensive capabilities. Despite this setback, Yamamoto continued to direct naval operations, overseeing campaigns in the Solomon Islands and attempting to halt the growing Allied momentum. Yamamoto was also a charismatic leader, admired by his men for his energy, presence, and concern for morale. He traveled frequently to the front lines to inspire his troops, showing a sense of responsibility that endeared him to many. This habit, however, ultimately led to his death. On April 18, 1943, while flying to inspect Japanese bases in the Solomon Islands, his itinerary was intercepted by American intelligence thanks to code-breaking efforts. In Operation Vengeance, a squadron of U.S. P-38 Lightning fighters ambushed his plane over Bougainville, shooting it down. His death was a devastating blow to Japanese morale, as Yamamoto had become not only a strategist, but also a symbol of the Navy's spirit. In retrospect, Yamamoto remains a complex and paradoxical figure in history. He was a modernizer who foresaw the importance of air power, an internationalist who understood the strength of America better than most of his colleagues, and a reluctant warrior who nevertheless devised a very strategy that brought his nation into a war it could not win. He combined brilliance and audacity with a tragic fatalism, and his legacy is one of both admiration and criticism. For many, he personifies the contradictions of Japan's wartime leadership, capable of extraordinary innovation and boldness, yet trapped by political circumstances and strategic overreach that ultimately contributed to Japan's defeat.